just looking, what we did is we pulled. Okay, I just had a pop-up ad. I'll keep going. Yeah, we did pull a report from Infinite Campus, which is like this citywide database for everything with Scholar related, including the attendance reports, and found that a lot of scholars, have simply transferred out to other schools and their names never dropped off CHEMS rolls, or they got transferred, or they might have transferred to homeschooling due to fears of COVID, and their names just never got dropped from the rolls. So Miss Assistant Principal Scroggins has been working on that front to get the names off of the rolls. But then there's another set of scholars who just they come in consistently, whether it is fear. And we've had some people from Concentric go out to do home visits. So what we're working on is going through that information, and we've been finding that there's been, there's still COVID-related concerns. That's a majority of it, but there's also scholars who have not been showing up, even though they tell their parents they do. So what we're working towards next year are two things: finding out how we can make scholars feel more welcome as they come back and after long-term absences, and also how we can prevent attendance from becoming an issue among scholars in the first place. So we're going to be continuing to work with Concentric on that, and we're developing a strategy and an implementation plan for next school year, like between our next meeting, May 3rd, and end of this school year. So I'll be continuing to come to these meetings to keep you guys posted on that. All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. Appreciate you coming on and giving us a few minutes of your time. Thank you so much. Mr. Grant, I know you and I are going to have a little bit of a longer conversation in a moment, but you being here and being the chair of both the Family Engagement and Climate Culture Committee, which is really under one umbrella this year, are there any updates you'd like to share from the work that the Family Engagement and Climate Culture Committee have been doing?
Good evening, everyone. I hope all is well. Again, thank you for joining us with our monthly meeting. We've just been doing the PBIS, working with students on how to use conflict resolution. One of our main goals is, even with helping teachers, how to de-escalate any problems where our students are not getting upset, where they are not fighting, but they're able to have a circle and they're able to talk it out and hear each other's side of the story without any emotions. Those are one of the things that we're working on. We've been doing some observing with some teachers where we're connecting their class participation and their behavior to their scores on their tests or their classwork and completing their classwork. We are doing the battle of the classes. We will have an all-star battle of the classes in May, and that's where we're going to be bringing in students from every grade level, and we're forming teams where we'll do a draft where students will be able to work with one another, and our older ones will be able to encourage the younger ones to get on board, and to the ones that's going to high school, just to speak with them on some of the things that they did that worked well and didn't work well. We are reaching out to parents where at the end of the year, we'll do donuts with dad and muffins with mom, just to close everything out. So you'll be getting a date very, very soon. And that's all we've been working on, Mr. Bud.
Awesome, man. And you say all, but that sounds like quite a bit. So thank you so much for the work that you've been doing on that. At this time, I do not believe that there's a member here this evening from ILT or here to talk about ILT. So real quick, the ILT team is the Instructional Leadership Team. The members of the ILT are really tasked this year. Our big focus has been around building a better working environment and climate and culture amongst our staff, putting systems in place for better communication, systems in place for better collaboration and partnership amongst the staff as we move towards those higher academic achievement goals. So some of the things that we've done is we've really we've created and really filled out a more robust staff calendar that allows all of us to see various events from internal staff events all the way to family and community engagement events in real time. We have created a suggestion box, which is something that will be utilized by both staff and students, where staff and students have an opportunity to make a suggestion around something that they'd like to see changed or improved in the school. Along with the suggestion, we ask that they provide a solution. And what happens is that during the ILT team meetings, those things are discussed, but then the entire staff and on the student end, I believe that there'll be a group of students that will come together to find a solution to those suggestions. The principal has opened himself up for principal office hours. Right now, that is for staff. It may grow into something that is open to our entire school community in the future or at the beginning of next year. But the principal has made himself available once a week for open office hours. And we have really been looking at how we utilize capturing kids' hearts to really start addressing some of the SEL challenges that we're seeing with our scholars in the classroom. So that's the work of the ILT, and that's where we are now, putting those systems in place so that we can hit the ground running next year hit the ground running at 100%, and really start to see some changes here in our school. That being said, we're going to move into the next segment of our discussion. I am going to. Oh, so Ms. Becker is actually here, but before I move on, student wellness, our student wellness wholeness team also has, Ms. Becker, would you like to jump on and just give a quick update? Okay, so the student wellness wholeness team is led by our school social worker, Ms. Becker. It is comprised of myself, your community school coordinator, your school psychologist, your your school SEL specialist, our assistant principal, Ms. Scroggins. And what we do is we try to wrap our services and resources around students who are really struggling either academically, it could be attendance-based or things that are going on in the home. We try to leverage the different resources that come with the various positions to best address the needs of those students. We also try to do what we can as far as parent engagement and reaching out to parents to address certain issues. Right now, we just wrapped up the second part of our conversation series called Conflict Overload, which is really a series of conversations where we're trying to come up with some solutions to conflict resolution and bullying amongst our students and within our school. So we had a part one. Today we had part two, which was Uno night. We had some prizes. We had some music. It was a lot of fun. Pictures coming soon. And we came up with some really cool solutions and things that both we can do here in the school, but also things that we can suggest to parents at home, because we need to do this in partnership. So parents came together to talk about some strategies that we could give to parents to utilize at home that will help to increase those conflict resolution skills. So we just had that. Part three is coming up in May. It's going to be Jeopardy. So while we have these conversations, we engage in activities. The first one was a sip and paint. Tonight was Uno night. And part three, which will date pending in May, will be a Jeopardy. We'll have a Jeopardy competition. So that covers, I think, for the first time in a long time, we got all of our committees wrapped up. So I'm really happy about that. And we're going to move into someone who has had a really huge impact on our school this year, Mr. Paul Grant, who is our Dean of Culture and Climate, has held that position since the beginning of the year. Mr. Grant has some great relationships with our students. He is someone who works tirelessly to both engage families and students. And because of his position, this is a guy who almost, not always, but more often than not, is dealing with students and families in crisis mode, right? Like, it's not like my job where I get to, hey, how can I help you? something's going on and I got some resources to help you. Mr. Grant is dealing with people who are in the middle of something, some type of conflict, some type of situation where, stress levels and excitement levels are very high. People's emotional states are very high, both our parents and our students in certain situations. And he handles these with a lot of grace, a lot of patience. I have watched him with students and with parents. But one of the things that has always gotten, like, people know who he is, but then people are like, well, what does that mean to be the Dean of Culture and Climate? And when I got a problem, why am I speaking to him? And so we're going to take some time to talk to Mr. Grant. I invited Mr. Grant to come. We're going to talk a little bit about him and the role of a Dean of Culture and Climate. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that he's done this year and some of the things that we can expect to see as we move into the next school year. So welcome, Mr. Grant. How you doing, brother?
I'm great. Thank you, Mr. Button. I truly appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate you. It has really been it has been something to watch you work this year, and just doing it day in and day out. Because I don't know if that's something that I could do at that level. And so it does take. It makes you realize how much skill and experience it takes to really be like the diffuser in all of those situations. Because your job is really just about bringing everybody down to a level where we can move forward. Now we can talk about how we progress. And it's not easy, you know what I'm saying? And I've seen firsthand just how difficult some of those conversations can get, and you handle them very well. So I want to say, I want you to introduce yourself. And I know that you've met quite a few people, but I want to give you a moment to just introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what your background and experience is, and what it means to you. What is good culture, or like, what does a positive or good culture and climate mean to you?
Yes, sir. Once again, my name is Paul Grant. I am, praise God, 48 years old. I'll be 49 next month, May 23rd. I've been in Baltimore City Public Schools for 22 years. I was a phys ed and health teacher. I also taught special education and adaptive physical education in high school. I have various mentoring programs. I started in 1998 at Harlem Park, and my overall goal is to give back to my community. I was blessed to play professional basketball in London, England. I came back home and I wanted to finish my degree. So I finished my degree, went into physical education, also went back and received a dual master's. I have two masters, one in special education and the other one in adaptive physical education. After that, I went back to school to receive my admin one to be in administration. So after leaving, becoming a teacher, I went into Dean of Students. I've worked at Harlem Park, Ashburton Elementary Middle School, Booker T, Gilmore, Calverton. I was there for 10 years. And I came here for Cherry Hill. So my overall goal is just for everyone to get along. And we were the fourth lowest performing school in the state of Maryland. So there was 1,000 schools ahead of us. And how I view and I look at it is, I don't care where you are. I don't care what area you live in. I think that we need to give back to our Black and brown students, and we need to teach them the best. So my overall goal is to make them 10 times better than me. I also want the parents to be heard. There are some people that I've noticed, even in the different schools that I worked at, where they didn't even listen to the parents. They looked down on the parents. And I don't believe in looking down. I believe in reaching down. So that's my overall goal, to help the parents to get them what they need, to hear what they're going through, to hear their concerns, to write it down, and to do my proper investigation. So that's what I do. And even Mr. Button said, a lot of people, they call on me. So if any parents have a problem, my goal is for Mr. Ashworth, Miss Principal Guzman, Miss Scroggins. I need them in the classroom where they're modeling for teachers so we can get our grades up. We can get our scores up, and they won't look down on Cherry Hill. I'm tired of everyone looking at Cherry Hill as a bad place. Cherry Hill is a diamond in the rough. Cherry Hill has some great students, has some great parents, and my goal is to take the slack off them. When a parent have a concern, we ask them to fill out an orange slip, which has the parent concern form. They fill that out. Once they fill that out, I will read it. I will gather up the students. I will ask them questions. I will take my notes. I will do an investigation. I will call the parents back. If it warrants that a parent, that they need a parent conference, I will schedule parents to get in. I will find out their availability, and I will schedule them to come. After that, I'm filling out a form that I have to download just to state that the parent was cooperative, the parent came, and we met and we came with a solution. So there are some parents that they don't have the same morals that you have, but with Mr. Bunton, with other people like Ms. Becker, we are helping to assist that parents will get the proper training or the proper teaching of how to de-escalate and how to work these things out in order for us to get our grades up.
Awesome. Awesome. So one thing I wanted to pivot to just real quick, and we don't have to spend a whole lot of time on it, but you did mention around the principals and their focus on academics and what that means. Can you talk a little bit more about that in the context of, like, I just wanted to clear the air because in the past, parents who have been in crisis or parents who have had, you know, some issues going on that they needed to get addressed, we didn't have a dean of climate and culture up until about a year before you got here. We did have one previously, but when most of the time when parents came out and they had an issue, if it was a serious enough, or it was deemed a serious enough issue, they could talk to a principal. They could talk to an assistant principal. And this has been a very jarring change for parents this year, because that's something that parents who have been a long time parents of the school have become used to. And then there's a specific reason why it doesn't work that way anymore, but it's also why we have you, a dean of culture and climate. So can we talk a little bit about why? Because I've been trying to explain to parents that, like, when it comes to conflict, when it comes to issues that have to do with like student behavior or conflicts among students or parents, like, Mr. Grant is the guy. Like, the principal has like given that entire responsibility and kind of purview to him. So it's not that the principal's ducking you. It's like, this is the guy that you need to be talking to. So could you talk a little bit about that and like how that allows specifically like our principals to do what they need to do?
Yes, sir. When I was recruited, I wanted to know about the attendance. I asked about the suspensions, and I asked about the educational grades. So when I received all of that, all the data, I came up with different things that we could do to better middle schools. And our schools, the average student is 2 or more grade levels behind.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think about 2 or more grade levels behind, all of us is our responsibility. So part of it, we are village. It's the parent. We have to communicate. We have to check in. We have to make sure our scholars are doing their work at home. But also, it's the teachers. So when we have teachers that were not giving students the proper technique, we're not giving students the proper paperwork, or we're not teaching. Well, Dr. Santelice chose David Guzman as the principal because of his track record. He has moved scores higher than probably top 10% of any principals in Baltimore City Public Schools. So Mr. Guzman was selected, and he chose his team. He chose his team with a skill set. So I'm known over Baltimore City with the work I've done, Ms. Scroggins, as well as Mr. Ashworth. So their job is to go in to make sure your babies are not watching movies all day, or your babies are not just doing any busy work. They are making sure that your babies learn, your babies close the deficit gap of our students being 2 grade levels or more behind. When I taught special ed in high school, I had some students at Dundalk High School that was in the 11th and 12th grade, and they were on a 3rd grade level. We don't want our students to get on that level. We want our students to So they are doing observations on pedagogical practices, on how the teacher is teaching. They get feedback to certain teachers as well as support, because we want our children, we want our students to feel excited about learning. We want them to feel comfortable, and we want them to grasp the subject. Last thing, there are some students that they are struggling with their academics, so they start to misbehave. That's when I come to play. They want to be good at something. So if they say they're not good at math, maybe I can be good at getting put out of class or being a class clown. So that's when I come in. I build relationships. I look at them. What can I help you with? What do you need help with? If Johnny was put out, if I look at my referrals, Johnny get put out every morning at 10 o'clock. No was getting put out. Johnny was getting put out, Mr. Button, because he hates math. He's not good at math. The teacher teach over top his head. The teacher wasn't giving him the modifications and accommodations. So Johnny said, I quit. I don't care about learning anymore because my teacher is not chunking it. My teacher is not making it a little bit easier for me to learn. So that's when they come in, and they have to make sure that they are checking the lesson plans, and our teachers are being prepared to teach our babies.
Right. So that really is the funny thing is that's the job of a principal. That's what your principal is. Like that's what I think on paper, like that's what the job of the principal is to guide.
The principal is the lead educator.
The leadership of the academic structure and delivery. And having a dean of culture and climate really frees up principals to do that work, because now you have someone in place who can handle all of those other things that come our way, that typically at most schools or at some schools will pull the principal away from being able to do that work. So like for those listening and those going to be watching later, that's why it's really important to have a dean of culture and climate, especially in a school. Now, I think when you have a school this large, we're a very large school. I think it's great that we have someone who can specifically the staff, students, and parents know that's who I can go to when I have a problem or a conflict. So I'm not going to take up.
Mr. Button, if I can say this, the principal is he is CC'd on every conversation, everything I do. Mm-hmm. So even though I'm over the culture and climate, as courtesy, as keeping him in the loop of what's going on, I always CC Mr. Guzman, Principal Guzman, Miss Scroggins, and Mr. Ashworth.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So you all work together as a team. It is very important that parents know that he's aware of everything. It's just that there are buckets of work, and as a leader, you give people these buckets of work, and they have to take ownership of that. So I'm not going to keep you too much longer. I got 2 more main questions for you. One, and this came in from a parent or a parent that came out of our group. In your opinion, do we have a bullying problem at our school?
Um, I cannot say we have a bullying problem. If you ask, does bullying occur? Yes, it occurs. I really believe that we have a conflict resolution problem, meaning our students don't know how to talk to each other without being disrespectful to each other. We have some students that even their tone, they can be very offensive. So when students are, we also have a playing problem where students are playing too much and it's playing gone wrong, and then it starts to be a fight. So if a student says, I need you to stop, the other student needs to stop instead of continuing to bother that student. When he continue to bother that student, that's when it can turn into bullying, where it's numerous times unwanted behavior that's occurring numerous times. That's what bullying is. Bullying is not one person say your mother stinks and that person didn't like it, and then you say, oh, they bullying me. I think we misuse the word bullying because a lot of our students, they crack on each other. They crack jokes on each other back and forth. Someone can hit a soft spot and then they get upset and it becomes physical. So I do believe we have a conflict resolution problem, which is one of the SEL makeup, where we can control our anger, we can watch our words, we can think before we speak. Even I work with parents on that, where let's respect each other, let's bring our tone down, let's talk to each other. When someone is yelling or they come in cursing, a parent, I don't match their energy. I keep my same tone, I bring it down, and I want them to hear, and I acknowledge what they are saying, and I'm writing it down so they won't think that I don't care about what they're saying.
Gotcha. And it's interesting because the group of parents and staff that I worked with last month during our first of that conversation, the first part of it was bullying versus conflict. That was the first thing we discussed. And once we made once we all understood the clear difference between what is bullying and what is conflict, the conclusion was that bullying probably does happen, but we don't really have this wholesale bullying problem that a lot of parents at one point thought we had. Even the parents who participated had to, when they looked at it, they said, yeah, this is kids not knowing how to interact with each other very well and not looking out for each other's emotional well-being in those interactions. And then things are escalating from there. So final question is,
Mr. Button, if I can say this, also parents, please just think about this. If your child had an allegation against another student, my job is to do the investigation. So I can't be biased or I can't stay on one side. Sometimes, I'm just saying it, sometimes our children, they will leave out certain parts. And the parent will just judge and say, my child is being bullied, but they don't know the entire part. A young lady in middle school yesterday, her mother called up and said she was being bullied. I pulled both young ladies in my office. I asked probing questions. I did a student-to-student conference. The young lady stated that she wanted to fight her. I asked the other young lady, what was said to make her think that you wanted to fight her? The young lady said, I was playing with my friend and I said, don't get smacked. I had to pull her other friend in, and her other friend said she was talking to me, we play like that. The other young lady assumed she was talking to her, never ever said her name. Automatic, her mother said, someone is bullying my child. So we have to do the investigation and find out the story, because that right there, that was conflict resolution. And a young lady was assuming the girl was talking to her, and she never ever said her name. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm glad that we parents are starting to engage us in this conversation. And one of the things that I'm glad you touched on was the investigation process, because sometimes I think parents want to answer right now. And I understand that. Like, something's going on with my child, I need to know what's happening, like, and I need to know right now. But it does take some time to get to the true bottom of like what the problem is. And a lot of times it's not as bad as we think it is, right? 90% of a lot of the conflicts that I end up finding myself involved in or dealing with really start out as playing, or they're just simple misunderstandings between students, like, communication lapses. And that's what really leads to it. But on to the final question I wanted to talk about is that as the Dean of Culture and Climate, can you talk to us a little bit about where you see our school in the next, say, 2 to 3 years? And what are some things that might be different, or some change, or maybe some full-on changes that parents and students can expect to see as we move into the 2023 school year?
I would love for, and I can see it happening, where our parents are trusting the staff and this new administration. So I know throughout the years, some of the trusts were broken. I want them to be able to have a conversation. I want the parents to be able to ask for help. I want them to, and I'm not saying be vulnerable, but I would love for parents to be transparent, and whatever assistance they need, where staff can help them. I would love for our school to have a school-wide, after school, 1 day a week tutoring program, where our students that feel like they're not gaining, students that feel like they're not getting the necessary help because of the large class, because of other students in the class that could tweak the learning environment. I would love for staff members to have individual relationships with parents and with students to bring their grades up, to bring their attendance up. A vision of mine is for we to have peer tutoring. I would love for our older 7th and 8th graders to come down and read books, and to have little pull out with their their younger siblings. I would love for us to have peer mediation, where we can have peers that's mediating between one another instead of the teacher. A debate club where we can change conflict resolution into debating, so they can get skills on how to properly debate, how to agree to disagree without punching each other. I would love for our attendance to increase. I would love for more parental support, and for us to be known, Cherry Hill, to be known and recognized for something positive instead of negative. That is a vision of mine, and some of the things that I have going on. I know I need to do more outings with parents next year. This year, it was more of me just dealing with new staff members and not throwing everything out. But I do have a lot of plans. I do have a lot of events that I want to bring to the table, and I want to get our parents and students involved. I know I may do something at the end of the year, something spontaneous, where I want to do a neighborhood cleanup. So it'll be during this middle of the school day, where we'll get gloves, we'll get bags, and I'll bring out about 50 people. I'll have snacks and everything for people and for our students, and us to clean up our community. Last thing, I would love for, we have a project with 8th right now where there are 4 8th graders. They go around emptying trash cans. At the end, I bought them a piece and some juice today. Mr. Button and Miss Jones work with them as well. I would love to have where we have cleanup crews and we're going around picking up trash or outside. All of us to get along. So that's my vision.
Absolutely. That's a nice sounding vision, I must say myself. And I'm very excited to work and collaborate with you on bringing that to life for our school, for our students who definitely deserve it, and for their families. So thank you so much for your time, Mr. Grant. I'll leave you if there's any last words you want to impart on us before we wrap up. Yeah.
I would just like to say, let us work together. Tomorrow is not promised. Les Brown said the richest place in the world is the graveyard. And we don't want children dying. We won't want our parents dying, our family members. I think that we could work together and be great. So again, if you need anything, please feel free to contact me. I'm just a phone call away.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. All right. So just wrapping up with the rest of our event is just some quick updates. Thank you so much, Mr. Grant, for that wonderful climate and culture conversation. Please check us out on Instagram. Like, one of the things that Mr. Grant brought to our school is Battle of the Classes. And it's really hard to describe it. You really just got to be there. But if you can't be there, you can check us out on our Instagram page at Cherry Hill 159. I posted up a couple of videos of Battle Classic. Man, it's the most phenomenal energy that you can imagine. Our kids love it. Like, they look forward to it, and watching them compete in a very, very friendly and encouraging way where, like, yeah, we want to win, but you very rarely see anyone being sour when they don't win. Everyone is really just having a good time. And I think everyone wants to see more of that type of energy just permeating through our school. So yeah, like it would behoove you as a parent, as a student, as a member of our school community to really, really kind of get down with what Mr. Grant has been bringing to the school, and keep an eye out for the things that he's got planned and will be coming over the summer and through next year. Because they really, when it comes to climate and culture, like they're incredibly impactful. And all you got to do is ask our students about it, and they will tell you. You'll see their faces light up. So on the flip side of that, just some upcoming dates for you all. Our next food pantry resource fair is going to be coupled with our summer programming fair. So we have invited all of the various organizations and programs that will be operating summer programming in and around Cherry Hill to come to our school to give a presentation to mostly to the parents. We're working on a way to maybe invite some of the student body down during the food pantry event, but that's going to be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Tuesday, May 17th. Our food pantry will be there. The Maryland Legal Aid will be there. The Animal Rescue Shelter will be there. There'll be some other partners. I think the Mayor's Office of Economic Development will be there on that day. And we will have various summer programming opportunities for your students that will all be in attendance and with all their information for you on May 17th. Also on May 17th at 2 p.m. will be our final COVID-19 vaccination clinic of the year. I am incredibly happy to report that we are still seeing double-digit numbers at our vaccination clinics. And an interesting fact, according to our partners with MedStar Hospital, we are one of very, very few sites that they administer in Baltimore City that is still seeing a significant number of first dose vaccinations at our clinics. The clinic that we had in March, we had a total of 21 vaccinations, and of those 21, 8 or 9 of them were first dose vaccinations. And then this most recent one, I did not get the final numbers, but I was with them when the clinic started at 2:00. And the first four people to get vaccinated that day were all first time or first dose vaccination. So I'm very, very happy of that. That means that the word is getting out and we're doing something good to with the families in Cherry Hill to make, like people are trusting the vaccine. So that's good. That's a good thing. Our next school family council meeting is going to be Thursday, May 19th at 5 p.m. It is going to be an in-person meeting, and it is going to be an in-person end of year wrap-up discussion with Principal Guzman. So families, please spread this information far and wide. This will be a great, great time for parents to come out, engage directly with Principal Guzman, have an opportunity to talk about this past school year, really kind of address some of the things where could have been better, things where things went wrong, where trust may have been broken or abused, and figuring out and hearing from him about like what's coming down the line and how we are going to move forward to create a better rapport with our families as we move forward. I think COVID hit everyone hard. Coming back in person hit everyone very hard. And everybody, I think we all saw the effects of that. And I think we hopefully will be able to move clearly, like truly beyond that. And we really, really want to hear from parents, and we really want to start doing that work to truly like start building a better relationship between our school and our parents and families. So please join us Thursday, May 19th at 5 p.m. We'll be flyering and putting up posts and advertising, probably starting this week into the next school family community council. So thank you all for coming out. You all have a great night. I will be checking in with you all shortly, and please give us your feedback. Any comments, we'll be sure to address them at the next meeting. If you have any questions, someone from our administrative team will get back to you. You can leave a comment in our YouTube channel where we're live streaming. You can leave a comment on Class Dojo under the link. Follow us on Instagram. We're on Twitter and Facebook as well. And you all have a great night. Thanks a lot again, Mr. Grant.